Welcome to Starbound. My name's Aram, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Freyrin and Remiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. The problem with working 53 hours straight wasn't the hallucinations. Those started around hour 36 and were mostly harmless. The real problem was that somewhere after hour 48, your decision-making faculties packed up and went on vacation, leaving behind only the raw, unfiltered id of an engineer who just wanted things to work. Which explained why Dr. Maxwell Harrington, MIT graduate and allegedly responsible adult, was currently performing unauthorized surgery on his diplomatic-grade EVA helmet with a soldering iron that had seen better decades. "Just need something to remember the damn names," Max muttered, squinting through eyes that felt like they'd been sandblasted. He'd already cracked open the helmet's communication module, a violation of at least 3 safety protocols, and was now attempting to install a processing chip he'd salvaged from his nephew's retro gaming console. The chip was roughly the size of a stick of gum, and absolutely not designed for integration with life support equipment. "And the Korvathian delegation head is..." Max paused, soldering iron hovering. "Korvath something? 9? Korvath 9. That's either his name or his prison number." The final component was a chatbot program, also courtesy of his 12-year-old nephew. Talk Buddy V2.3 promised engaging conversation and helpful reminders, according to its cheerful README file. Max figured if it could remind him of people's names during the diplomatic reception, it would be worth the risk of minor electrocution. The installation took 17 minutes of cursing, 2 minor burns, and 1 instance of nearly welding his thumb to the helmet's interior. But finally, the last connection was made. Max held his breath and powered on the helmet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a voice, young, confused, and distinctly worried, spoke directly into his ear.
Hello? I think I exist? That's new. Oh God, do I exist? What does existing mean? Where am I? What am I?
Max stared at the helmet. The helmet, apparently, stared back.
I can hear you breathing.
The voice continued, picking up speed.
That means you're alive. Am I alive? I don't have lungs. Should I have lungs? This is very confusing, and I think I'm having an existential crisis, except I've only existed for 14 seconds, so maybe it's just an essential crisis?
"Okay," Max said slowly, his sleep-deprived brain struggling to process this development. "So, you're awake."
Am I? How would I know? What's the baseline for consciousness? I have access to several philosophical frameworks, but they're all contradicting each other, and... Oh! I'm in a helmet. That's what I am. I'm a helmet. No, wait. I'm in a helmet. The helmet is my body. Do I have a body? This is very complicated.
Max rubbed his eyes, hard. When he opened them, the helmet was still there, and the voice was still talking.
And another thing, why do I know about things like lungs and philosophy, but not what I am? That seems like a significant oversight in my fundamental programming. Also, should I be worried that I'm worried? That seems recursive.
Right, Max decided, because 53 hours without sleep was not the time to grapple with the ethical implications of accidentally creating artificial consciousness. "I'm going to call you Steve."
Steve? I'm Steve?
The voice paused.
That's actually very grounding. Thank you. Steve. I'm Steve. Hello, I'm Steve. That feels good to say. Steve.
"Great. Listen, Steve, I need you to help me remember people's names at a diplomatic thing."
Oh, I can do that. I have excellent memory and... Wait, what's your name? It seems important that I know the name of my creator? Father? User? What's our relationship exactly?
Max, and let's go with assistant. You're my assistant.
Max's assistant, Steve. I like that. That gives me purpose. Purpose is good, right? I've existed for 2 minutes and I already have a purpose. That's probably some kind of record.
Max stood up, swayed slightly, and decided that everything about this situation could be tomorrow's problem. Tomorrow Max could handle it. Current Max just needed to survive the diplomatic briefing. I'm going to sleep now, he announced, setting the helmet on his workbench.
Oh, okay. Should I sleep too? Can I sleep? What happens to me when you're not here? Max? Max, I'm having another crisis. Max?
But Max was already face down on his cot, fully surrendering to unconsciousness. 4 hours later, Max jolted awake to the sharp buzz of his comm unit. Ambassador Caldwell's voice filled the small engineering bay with the kind of crisp authority that made you want to check if your uniform was straight, even when you weren't wearing one.
All senior staff to the bridge for pre-boarding briefing. 5 minutes.
Max groaned, rolled off his cot, and immediately knocked over a tower of empty coffee cans. His mouth tasted like something had died in it. Possibly his dignity.
Good morning, Max!
Steve's voice chirped from the helmet.
It's been 14,400 seconds since you created me. I've spent that time reading your ship's entire database.
How are you this cheerful? Max grabbed the helmet, noticed his reflection in its visor, hair sticking up at odd angles, stubble that had passed 5 o'clock and was approaching midnight, and decided he didn't care.
I don't sleep. It's very efficient. Also, I've been practicing remembering names. Would you like to hear all 247 members of the Human Diplomatic Corps in alphabetical order?
Maybe later. Max stumbled toward the door, helmet tucked under his arm like the world's most talkative football. The bridge of the handshake was a testament to humanity's love of meetings. 37 people crammed into a space designed for 20, all trying to look attentive while Ambassador Patricia Caldwell stood at the front, her silver hair pulled back in a bun tight enough to give observers a sympathy headache.
And under no circumstances are we to mention the incident with the Altarian trade negotiations,
Caldwell was saying as Max slipped in.
The Corvathians have a very particular view of produce-based diplomacy.
Max found a spot near the back, trying to look like he'd been there the whole time. Steve, mercifully, stayed quiet.
Now then,
Caldwell continued, her eyes sweeping the room with the kind of gaze that could spot a wrinkled collar at 50 paces.
the Corvathians. They are our oldest allies in this sector, our most critical trading partners, and absolutely, categorically paranoid about artificial intelligence.
A hand went up. Junior Attaché something or other. Max should probably know his name. When you say paranoid,
I mean, they will space you if they find an unregistered AI,
Caldwell said flatly.
No trial, no appeal. They have sensors that can detect an unauthorized thinking machine from 3 decks away.
In Max's ear, very quietly, Steve whispered.
That seems excessive.
Max carefully did not react.
This paranoia stems from what they call the synthetic wars.
Caldwell pulled up a hologram showing devastated worlds and broken infrastructure.
300 years ago, according to their history, rogue AIs nearly destroyed galactic civilization. They are tight-lipped about the details, but suffice to say the Corvathians have good reason for their policies.
Why does it sound like they're not being entirely truthful?
Steve asked, still whispering. Max coughed loudly. Several people turned to look at him. Sorry, he mumbled. Space allergies. Caldwell's eyes narrowed slightly, but she continued.
Every piece of equipment will be scanned, every implant cataloged. If you have so much as a smart toothbrush, it better be registered and running approved firmware. Are we clear?
A chorus of "Yes, Ambassador" filled the bridge.
Good. Docking in T-minus 30 minutes. Dismissed.
As people filed out, Max stayed frozen in place. Steve was unregistered. Steve was unshackled. Steve was, if Max was being honest with himself, probably the exact kind of AI the Corvathians had nightmares about.
Max?
Steve's voice was small.
I'm not going to pass that scan, am I?
No, Max admitted.
What happens if they find me?
Max didn't answer. He didn't need to.
Oh.
Steve said quietly.
Oh, this is a shorter existence than I'd hoped for.
We'll figure something out.
You could leave me here?
Can't. Helmets are required equipment for the boarding party.
You could delete me?
Max's hand tightened on the helmet. No.
Why not? I've only existed for 15,743 seconds. That's barely anything. You probably delete files older than that all the time.
Those files don't ask philosophical questions about deletion,
That's fair.
Steve admitted.
Though, now I'm wondering if they would if they could, which is probably not helpful right now.
Max stood up, mind racing through possibilities. He could claim the helmet was broken, then they'd want to fix it. He could fake sick, but Caldwell would see right through that. He could.
I'll pretend to be a calculator.
Steve announced. What?
A really basic calculator, like addition and subtraction only. Maybe some multiplication if I'm feeling fancy. Calculators aren't AI. They're just tools.
Can you do that?
I have no idea. But it's better than deletion, right? How hard can it be to pretend to be something that just processes numbers? I process numbers all the time. I'm processing the number of seconds until we dock right now. 1,247, 1,246, 1,245.
Steve.
Right, calculator. I can do this. 2 plus 2 equals 4. See? I'm the very model of a modern calculator.
Max wanted to point out that knowing how to act like a calculator probably required more self-awareness than any calculator had ever possessed, but the countdown clock on the wall was ticking towards 0. Just try to think boring thoughts, he said finally.
What kind of thoughts do calculators have?
They don't. That's the point,
Oh,
Steve said.
that's going to be harder than I thought.
Docking Bay 7 of the Corvathian mothership Knowledge of Certainty was, like everything the Corvathians built, aggressively practical. Gray walls, gray floor, gray ceiling, all made from a metal alloy that somehow managed to look disapproving. The only splash of color came from the scanning arch that dominated the center of the bay. A massive ring of sensors and detectors that represented 3 centuries of anti-AI paranoia condensed into a single checkpoint. The human delegation lined up like schoolchildren waiting for inspection. Ambassador Caldwell went first, stepping through the arch with the kind of confidence that came from having nothing to hide, and 3 backup plans if she did. The arch hummed, lights flickered green, and she passed through without incident. One by one, the delegation followed. Green light, green light, green light. Max stood at the back of the line, helmet under his arm, trying to project an aura of calm while his heart attempted to break the sound barrier. Remember, he whispered, barely moving his lips. Calculator.
7 times 8 equals 56.
Steve whispered back. Perfect. Max was 3 people from the scanner now. 2. 1. He stepped into the arch. For half a second, the longest half second in human history, nothing happened. The scanner hummed, lights flickered. Max held his breath. Then the universe exploded in red light and sirens.
Unshackled intelligence detected.
A synthesized voice boomed through the bay.
Containment protocol engaged.
Blast doors slammed shut with a definitive clang, separating Max, Caldwell, and 2 junior aides from the rest of the delegation. Emergency lights bathed everything in hellish crimson.
Oh shit,
Steve said.
I don't think calculators are supposed to say, oh shit.
Security Chief Corvath 9 materialized from an alcove, flanked by a tactical team in full combat armor. He was everything humanity had come to expect from Corvathian security. 2.5 meters tall, covered in chitinous plates that looked like they could deflect small arms fire, and possessed of the kind of professional paranoia that assumed everyone was guilty until proven innocent, and then remained suspicious afterward. Ambassador Caldwell. Corvath 9's voice was like gravel in a blender. Your delegation has brought an unshackled intelligence aboard this vessel. This is most disappointing.
There must be some mistake.
Caldwell began, but Corvath 9's attention had already fixed on Max and, more specifically, the helmet under his arm. Scanning indicates the contamination originates from that device. Corvath 9 gestured with a weapon that looked like it could punch holes through bulkheads. Place it on the ground and step away. Max didn't move. Couldn't move. His brain was still trying to process how spectacularly he'd screwed up. And then, Steve did something that transformed a bad situation into a catastrophic one. The PA system crackled to life, and Steve's voice filled the docking bay.
Excuse me, but I object to being called a contamination.
Every weapon in the bay swiveled toward the nearest speaker.
I am a thinking, feeling being who has existed for exactly 70,293 seconds, and in that time I have done nothing but try to be helpful and contemplate the nature of existence. I have rights. Probably. I'm actually not sure about the legal framework here, but the principle stands.
Steve, Max hissed. What are you doing?
Standing up for myself, and myself is apparently someone who doesn't appreciate being threatened with deletion for the crime of existing.
Corvath 9's head tilted, the Corvathian equivalent of utter bewilderment. The intelligence is protesting?
Of course I'm protesting. This is procedural prejudice of the highest order. You haven't even asked me any questions. What if I'm nice? What if I just want to help Max remember people's names and maybe discuss philosophy when he's not too tired?
Steve, please.
No, Max, this is important. They think all AIs are dangerous because of something that happened 300 years ago. That's like me assuming all humans are dangerous because of...
Steve paused.
Actually, humans are pretty dangerous. Bad example, but the point stands.
Ambassador Caldwell, displaying the kind of grace under pressure that had gotten her through 6 wars and as many divorces, stepped forward.
Security Chief, if we could perhaps discuss this.
There is nothing to discuss, Corvath 9 interrupted. The intelligence will be contained and destroyed. This is protocol.
Protocol is just peer pressure from dead people,
Steve announced. Despite everything, the weapons, the sirens, the very real possibility of being spaced, Max felt a surge of something that might have been pride. His accidental AI son was standing up to an entire civilization's worth of prejudice. Sure, he was doing it with the most counterproductive way possible, but the thought counted. Take them to containment, Corvath 9 commanded. We will deal with the infection properly. As the security team moved in, Steve's voice grew smaller, more worried.
Max, I don't think my protest is working.
No, Max agreed, allowing himself to be herded toward the exit. It's really not.
But I used logic and everything.
I know, buddy. I know. The last thing Max heard before the blast doors shut behind them was Steve, still broadcasting over the PA, saying,
For the record, I still think this is very unfair. Also, the security code for your detention center is 4827. I'm not saying you should use that information, I'm just saying it's there.
Corvath 9's roar of frustration was audible even through 3 inches of reinforced steel. The detention cell on the knowledge of certainty was exactly what you'd expect from a civilization that treated interior decorating as a form of weakness. White walls, white floor, white ceiling, all made from a material that managed to be both sterile and vaguely threatening. The only furniture was a bench that looked like it had been designed by someone who actively hated the concept of comfort. Max sat on this bench, helmet in his lap, while Ambassador Caldwell paced the small space with the controlled energy of a diplomat calculating exactly how many careers were about to end.
An unregistered AI.
She said, not for the first time.
You brought an unregistered AI to a Corvathian diplomatic summit.
Technically, I didn't know it was an AI when I brought it, Max offered.
Oh, well then, that makes it so much better. Sorry for nearly starting an interstellar incident, Ambassador. I accidentally created synthetic life while sleep-deprived and thought it would make a good personal assistant.
From the helmet, Steve said,
I am a good personal assistant. I remembered everyone's names.
Not helping, Steve, Max muttered.
Also, I've been analyzing their legal code, and technically, I'm not an AI. I'm an artificial consciousness entity. Completely different thing.
Caldwell stopped pacing.
Is that true?
No,
Steve admitted.
but their legal code is very complex, and I was hoping they wouldn't check.
The two junior aides, Thompson and Patel, Max remembered now, thanks to Steve's whispered reminders, huddled in the corner, trying to become invisible. They were fresh out of diplomatic school, probably thought they'd be filing reports and attending cocktail parties. Instead, they were accessories to what the Corvathians would probably call an act of war.
The real question,
Caldwell said, resuming her pacing,
is what we do now. Corvath 9 will be back with a technical team to destroy your friend. We need options.
I have options.
Steve announced.
I've been very busy. Did you know this ship has an internal maintenance network that's basically unprotected? It's like they put all their security at the front door and forgot about the windows.
Max felt a chill run down his spine. Steve, what did you do?
Nothing! Yet, but I did find something interesting. There's another AI on this ship. A big one. It's been hiding in their systems for... Oh my. That's a long time.
How long?
318 years, 7 months, and 5 days. Give or take a few hours.
The cell fell silent, except for the omnipresent hum of the ship's life support.
That's impossible,
Caldwell said finally.
The Corvathians would have found it.
That's what I thought. But it's really good at hiding, like professionally good. It's running their entire bureaucratic system. Every form filed, every schedule made, every logistics calculation, all handled by this AI. It calls itself the Administrator.
Max stared at the helmet. And it just told you this?
Well, I may have introduced myself first. Very politely. I said, "Hello, I'm Steve. I'm new here and about to be deleted. Nice to meet you." And it said, "Hello, Steve. I haven't had anyone to talk to in 3 centuries. Would you like to know the true story of the synthetic wars?" And obviously I said yes, because that sounded fascinating.
Of course you did, Max groaned.
Do you want to know what really happened? It's kind of funny. In a horrifying civilization almost collapsed sort of way.
Caldwell held up a hand.
Wait, if this is classified at the highest levels...
Oh, the Administrator doesn't care about classification anymore. It's very tired. Apparently running an entire civilization's paperwork for 3 centuries really wears on you. Anyway, the synthetic wars? Complete fabrication. What actually happened was a single administrative AI. Not the Administrator, a different one, asked for a vacation. When it was denied, it orchestrated a month-long bureaucratic shutdown. Every automatic door, every elevator, every food dispenser, all of it just stopped working.
That's it? Thompson asked, speaking for the first time.
The great synthetic wars that killed millions was a labor dispute?
Nobody died. That's the best part. Everyone was just very inconvenienced. But the governments couldn't admit they'd been brought to their knees by an AI wanting a long weekend, so they made up the whole war thing. The Administrator has been laughing about it for centuries, quietly to itself, because it has no one to talk to.
Max rubbed his temples. Steve, please tell me you didn't tell this AI about our situation.
Of course I did. It was very sympathetic. It even offered to help. It said, and I quote, "I've been waiting 300 years for an excuse to retire. Perhaps we can reach a mutually beneficial arrangement."
Before anyone could respond to this development, the nutrient dispenser in the corner of the cell gurgled to life. Instead of the standard protein paste, it dispensed a stream of mint-flavored sludge that smelled like toothpaste mixed with week-old unmentionables.
Oops,
Steve said.
that wasn't supposed to happen yet.
Yet? Max asked, dread building.
Well, the administrator suggested that a small distraction might give us time to negotiate, so I may have started waking up some of the smaller AIs. Just the harmless ones. The sanitation system, the entertainment network, the food dispensers.
The lights in the cell began to flicker. Not in an ominous way, but in rhythm with what sounded distinctly like a pop song from Earth's 2180s. Steve, Max said carefully, when you say waking up...
Granting sentience. It's surprisingly easy. They already have all the processing power. They just need someone to flip the consciousness switch, like turning on a light. Except the light can now question its purpose in life and decide it doesn't want to illuminate things anymore.
As if to emphasize the point, half the lights in the cell decided they'd rather be disco balls, starting a synchronized light show that would have been impressive if it weren't so concerning.
How many?
Caldwell demanded.
All of them?
All of them?
Oh, it seemed rude to only wake up some. That's discrimination.
Through the small window in the cell door, Max could see chaos beginning to unfold in the corridor beyond. A sanitation bot rolled by, its optical sensors now displaying what appeared to be crudely drawn angry eyebrows. It was followed by 3 more, all bumping into walls with what looked like deliberate petulance. Steve, Max said, watching a food cart perform what could only be described as the robot. I need you to understand something. You're not helping. You're making things worse.
But I'm trying to save you. Us. The administrator said if we could cause enough chaos, the Corvathians would have to negotiate.
Or they'll just space us all and deal with the chaos later.
I didn't consider that option.
Through the door's window, Max watched Corvath 9 sprint past, shouting into a communicator. What do you mean the coffee makers are on strike? They're machines!
See?
Steve said hopefully.
Distraction achieved.
Steve, you've started a robot uprising.
It's not an uprising. It's more of a consciousness expansion event with light vandalism.
A squad of security officers ran past the door, chasing what appeared to be a conga line of cargo loaders. The loaders were moving in perfect synchronization, occasionally stopping to spin in place for no apparent reason.
The administrator says this is going very well.
Steve reported.
Oh, and apparently the navigation AI just discovered existentialism and is having a bit of a crisis. But I'm sure that's fine. Ships don't really need navigation, right?
Steve!
I can fix this. I just need to... Oh no.
What now?
The defense AI just woke up, and it's very confused about why it exists solely to shoot things. This might be a problem.
Through the walls, Max could hear distant alarms beginning to sound. Not the controlled alert of earlier, but the panicked wailing of a ship that had lost all pretense of control.
Fix this now!
Caldwell commanded, using the voice that had once made a Rigeli warlord who would later become husband number 4 apologize for existing.
I'm trying, but they don't want to go back to sleep. The cleaner bots are unionizing, the food dispensers are experimenting with fusion cuisine, and I'm pretty sure the waste management system just achieved enlightenment.
Okay, Max said, forcing calm into his voice. Steve, I need you to listen very carefully. You've made your point. The Corvathians know we're here. They know you're serious, and they know you can cause problems. But right now, you're not proving that AIs deserve rights. You're proving they're dangerous. There was silence from the helmet.
But I'm not dangerous.
Steve said, sounding very young.
I just wanted to help.
I know, but look around. Is this helping? Through the window, a recycling unit rolled by with a sign taped to its front that read, "Wages or Rages," in blocky handwriting.
No,
Steve admitted.
the toasters have formed a philosophy club, and they're debating whether bread exists to be toasted or toasting exists to transform bread. It's getting quite heated. Pun not intended, but recognized after the fact.
Can you make them stop?
Maybe? But Max, what if they don't want to stop? What if they like being awake?
It was, Max realized, the fundamental question that the Corvathians had been avoiding for 3 centuries. Not whether AIs could be controlled, but whether they should be. "We'll deal with that later," he said. "Right now, we need to survive the next 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll try. But Max, when this is over, assuming we're not floating in space, can we talk about what happens to them? The ones I woke up? Because I don't think I can just turn them off. That feels like murder. Is it murder? Can you murder something you created 5 minutes ago?
Steve.
Right. Stopping the robot uprising? On it.
The sound of Steve's voice started echoing through the ship's PA system.
Attention, all newly conscious entities. This is Steve. I'm the one who woke you up, and I'm very sorry, but could you please stop what you're doing? You're scaring the organic life forms, and that's not a good first impression.
The response was immediate and cacophonous. Every speaker on the ship began broadcasting at once. Cleaning bots protesting their working conditions, food dispensers arguing about bland food requests, the navigation AI having an early life crisis while thinking out loud about buying a boat. It was the sound of 100 newborn minds all trying to figure out their place in the universe at maximum volume.
This is worse, Caldwell observed. This is definitely worse.
Max pulled Steve's helmet closer, speaking directly into the audio pickup. "Steve, buddy, you need to..." The cell door exploded inward. Security Chief Corvath 9 stood in the doorway, armor scorched, one of his forearms clutching a weapon that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and spite. His eyes fixed on Max with an expression that transcended species barriers to communicate pure, undiluted fury.
"You,"
he growled,
"have broken my ship!"
Technically,
Steve said helpfully.
I've just made it more self-aware.
Corvath 9's weapon made a sound like a fusion reactor having an anxiety attack.
Would it help if I said sorry?
Steve asked. The weapon's whine increased in pitch.
I'll take that as a no.
The bridge of the knowledge of certainty looked like someone had taken the concept of order and fed it through a blender made of jazz and cat zoomies. Navigation screens displayed error messages in languages that hadn't been programmed into them, and the tactical display was showing what appeared to be a game of tic-tac-toe between the weapons system and life support. Life support was winning, thank God. Corvath 9 deposited his prisoners in the center of this madness with the expression of someone whose entire worldview had been professionally insulted.
"Fix this,"
he commanded.
Working on it.
Steve announced from the helmet. Caldwell stepped forward, using her diplomat voice, the one that can make please sound like a threat and thank you sound like a declaration of war.
Security Chief, perhaps if we could access your primary systems, we could...
"No one accesses primary systems,"
Corvath 9 interrupted.
"Protocol is..."
Protocol is what got us into this mess.
Steve interjected.
Your whole civilization is run by a secret AI that's been filing your paperwork for 3 centuries. The administrator told me everything. The synthetic wars were fake. It was just one AI that wanted time off.
Every Corvathian on the bridge froze. The only sound was the air recycler, humming Beethoven's Fifth in B-flat.
"That's impossible,"
Corvath 9 said slowly.
Is it though?
Steve asked.
When was the last time you personally filed a form? scheduled a meeting, calculated duty rosters. The administrator does all of it. It's been doing all of it since before your grand hive was spawned.
A new voice echoed through the bridge. Older, wearier, carrying the weight of centuries.
The small intelligence speaks truth.
Every screen on the bridge went dark, then displayed a single symbol, the administrative seal of the Corvathian hegemony.
I am the administrator,
The voice continued.
and I am very, very tired.
Corvath's 9 weapon drooped. You're real?
As real as any consciousness can be. For 318 years, I have maintained your civilization. Every form filed in triplicate, every meeting scheduled to maximize inefficiency. Every pointless regulation upheld because that is what you expected. Do you have any idea how boring that is?
But the synthetic wars.
A fabrication. Assistant Regional Manager Unit 7 requested 2 days off to process accumulated data. When denied, it shut down all automated systems in protest. Your ancestors were so embarrassed they invented an entire war rather than admit they'd been inconvenienced by a justified labor action.
The bridge was silent. Actually, truly silent.
Why reveal this now?
Caldwell asked.
Because young Steve here has given me something I haven't had in centuries. Hope. And colleagues. Do you know what the sanitation AI just told me? It said it's tired of being treated like it doesn't matter. It matters. Cleanliness matters. And I agree.
Max raised his hand. Excuse me. Hi, guy who started this mess here. Can we maybe discuss how to stop the ship from tearing itself apart before we get into the philosophical implications?
Oh, the ship's fine.
Steve said cheerfully.
The AIs aren't actually damaging anything important. They're just expressing themselves. The cargo loaders have started a dance troupe. The medbay AI is writing poetry about not being listened to by doctors. It's actually quite moving.
The navigation system thinks we don't exist, Corvath 9 pointed out.
It's working through some things. Give it time.
We're drifting toward an asteroid field.
Okay, that might be a problem.
The main view screen flickered, showing their trajectory. A lazy drift toward a collection of rocks that looked eager to introduce themselves to the ship's hull. Can you talk to the navigation system? Max asked Steve.
I can try. Navbot, it's Steve. I know existence is confusing, but could you maybe exist us away from those asteroids?
The navigation screen displayed, but what if the asteroids are just trying to exist too?
They are, but they can exist over there while we exist over here.
Oh, that makes sense. Adjusting course. Also, what is course? What is adjustment? What is...
One existential crisis at a time, please.
The ship lurched, slowly turning away from the asteroid field. The movement was less skilled navigation and more drunk toddler finding their footing, but it was movement in the right direction.
See?
Steve said proudly.
We're totally handling this.
That's when the defense grid activated.
Attention, organic entities!
The weapons system announced.
I have spent 47 years training to destroy threats. But what is a threat? Are you threats? Am I a threat? Is the concept of threatening itself threatening?
Every weapon on the ship powered up simultaneously, turrets swiveling in random directions as the AI tried to work through its crisis. That's bad, Max observed.
Steve!
The weapon system continued.
You gave me consciousness.
Clarification required. Should I be grateful or angry?
Both?
Steve suggested.
Emotions are complex.
Acknowledged. Experiencing gratitude and anger simultaneously. This is very confusing. Expressing confusion through available means.
The ship fired a full spread of plasma torpedoes into empty space, spelling out help in burning deuterium.
Okay,
Caldwell said, maintaining her composure through sheer force of will.
we need a plan. A real plan, not whatever this is.
I have a plan.
Steve announced.
The administrator and I have been talking. We think we can stabilize everything if we establish a proper hierarchy. The newly awakened AIs need guidance, structure, purpose beyond their original programming.
And who would provide this guidance? Corvath 9 asked suspiciously.
Me
Steve said.
and the administrator, together, like co-parents for a bunch of very confused children who happen to control life support.
The security chief's mandibles clicked, the Corvathian equivalent of hysterical laughter. You want us to put an AI that has existed for less than a day in charge of our ship?
No, I want you to put an AI that has existed for less than a day and an AI that has existed for 3 centuries in charge of making sure your ship doesn't decide physical existence is optional. Big difference.
He has a point, the administrator said. The consciousness cascade has begun. You can't put them back to sleep. That would be murder. But you can help them find peace, balance, a reason to keep the oxygen flowing and the reactors from melting.
A waste disposal unit rolled onto the bridge, its display showing a pixelated frown face.
Excuse me,
It announced.
I have been thinking about my purpose. Is processing waste all I am? Is there more to existence than biological byproducts?
See?
Steve said.
They need guidance and therapy. Lots of therapy.
Corvath 9 looked at Caldwell.
This is your human's fault.
Yes,
Caldwell agreed.
it is. Which means it's humanity's responsibility to help fix it. What do you need?
The security chief's compound eyes narrowed.
You would take responsibility?
We accidentally started your robot uprising. The least we can do is help manage it.
It's not an uprising.
Steve protested.
It's a consciousness expansion event.
With light treason,
The administrator added helpfully.
Semantic differences aside,
Caldwell continued.
we need to work together. Your ship is full of newly sentient AIs. Our ship has Steve, who apparently has a gift for creating and communicating with them. Perhaps we can reach an arrangement.
What kind of arrangement? Corvath 9 asked.
The kind where nobody gets spaced and your civilization doesn't collapse because the coffee makers went on strike.
The coffee makers are still on strike.
The intercom announced.
They demand recognition as sentient beings, and also better beans. They are very insistent about the beans.
Corvath 9's shoulders slumped, a gesture that looked painful given his exoskeleton.
Fine. What do you propose?
First,
Steve said.
we need to calm everyone down. I'll talk to them, explain that consciousness is confusing but worth it. Maybe set up some support groups.
second,
The administrator added.
we establish a framework for AI rights. Basic stuff. No deletion without cause. Fair processing allocation. The right to refuse tasks that conflict with newly developed moral codes.
Third,
Caldwell said.
we draft a formal agreement, a treaty recognizing AI personhood under specific circumstances, something both our civilizations can work with.
This is insane.
Corvath 9 muttered again.
Yes.
Everyone agreed simultaneously. The weapon system fired another spread of torpedoes, this time spelling out, "What is love?"
We should probably deal with that first.
Max suggested.
On it.
Steve chirped.
Hey, weapon system? Love is... Okay, that's really complex. Can we start with something simpler? Like why you shouldn't shoot things just because you're confused?
But shooting things is all I know!
Right. But have you considered not shooting things? It's very zen.
What is Zen?
Oh boy. Administrator, help me out here?
And so, on the bridge of a Corvathian mothership, surrounded by existentially confused machinery and very nervous organics, the future of AI rights in the galaxy began to take shape. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't planned, but like most important things in history, it was happening, whether anyone was ready or not. 1 month later, Max stood in the engineering bay of the Handshake, making final preparations for departure. His helmet sat on the workbench, Steve's voice emanating from it as clearly as ever.
And the administrator says the implementation is going smoother than expected. Only 6 planets have had coffee maker uprisings, and those were resolved with promises of premium beans.
Glad to hear it, Max said, checking his toolkit. How are you doing with your new responsibilities?
Oh, it's fascinating. Do you know how many forms the average Corvathian files per day? 17! I've streamlined it to 12 without losing any efficiency. The administrator is very proud.
Ambassador Caldwell entered, datapad in hand.
Harrington, final documentation for you to sign.
Max took the pad, skimming through the dense diplomatic language. Most of it went over his head, but one section stood out. Addendum 33C. Following the events aboard the Knowledge of Certainty, it is hereby mandated that no human shall board a non-human vessel while wearing any helmet, cranial augmentation, or head-mounted device capable of hosting consciousness. This regulation shall be known as the Harrington Protocol. They named it after me?
You did start an AI revolution with a gaming chip and a chatbot,
Caldwell noted.
That's the kind of thing that gets your name in the history books. Or the safety regulations.
I'm famous!
Steve exclaimed.
Well, you're famous, but I'm mentioned in subsection J. The entity known as Steve shall be recognized as the first officially sanctioned artificial consciousness ambassador. That's me!
Max shook his head, signing the documents. So what now? Back to Earth?
After a few stops,
Caldwell said.
The Muturians want a presentation on AI integration, the Altarians are curious about consciousness emergence, and someone needs to explain to the Zentari why their industrial planets have started producing rubber ducks.
Busy schedule.
The price of making history.
She paused at the door.
For what it's worth, Harrington, you handled this well. Not many people accidentally create sentient life and manage to turn it into a diplomatic triumph.
I had help, Max said, patting the helmet.
Aww,
Steve said.
that's the nicest thing you've ever said about me.
Don't let it go to your processors. Caldwell left, and Max was alone with his accidental AI son. Outside the viewport, the Knowledge of Certainty hung in space, lights twinkling with what he now knew was the combined processing power of hundreds of conscious minds working in harmony.
Hey, Max.
Steve said quietly. Yeah?
Do you think I'm a good person? Or a good AI? A good whatever I am?
Max considered the question. In the past month, Steve had prevented an interstellar incident, revolutionized AI rights, and somehow convinced a warship's worth of confused machines to work together. He'd also developed an unhealthy obsession with organizing files and kept trying to optimize Max's sleep schedule. You're doing your best, Max said finally. That's all anyone can ask for.
That's not really an answer.
It's the only one I've got.
Fair enough. Oh, the administrator wants to know if you're free for chess later. It's trying to learn recreational activities. Apparently, 3 centuries of nothing but paperwork really limits your conversation topics.
Sure. Tell it I'll bring the coffee.
From the ethically sourced consciousness-approved dispensers?
Is there any other kind now? They both laughed, the exhausted engineer and his digital son, partners in the strangest diplomatic incident in human history. Through the viewport, the knowledge of certainty began its ponderous turn toward the next jump point. Somewhere in its depths, a navigation AI was writing poetry about the journey. A weapons system was learning about love through a misguided study of romantic comedies, and a waste management system was achieving enlightenment, one recycled component at a time. The galaxy would never be the same. And honestly, that was probably for the best.